Hey everybody, and welcome to AI Outbound 101. It's good to have you here. This is going to be the most complete course you can find anywhere online that teaches you exactly how to run AI automated outbound lead gen systems that can book you sales meetings completely on autopilot. Okay, this course is going to have everything you need to get up and running in your AI outbound system to generate you more leads at scale. Okay. Now we have 7 different lessons in this course. Each lesson is going to combine strategy with practical implementation tips, tutorials, and tools. Now, we're going to start off by talking about what AI outbound is. How does it differ from traditional outbound? What can we do now with AI that we couldn't do up until now with traditional outbound cold email, cold outreach systems? Okay, so we're going to start there. Then we're going to move into how we actually pull our lead list. Where do we source our leads from? Well, it's great if we can, reach out to people automatically now, but who are we reaching out to? Where do we get those leads? Where do we get email addresses? Where do we get LinkedIn profiles, et cetera, et cetera? So we'll talk all about that in lesson 2. Lesson 3, we're going to talk about how we personalize those lead lists. So now with the advent of AI, instead of having to go to a lead's LinkedIn profile or website and do manual research, we can do all of that automatically now at scale so that we don't lose that sense of human touch in our outbound systems, okay? Lesson 4, we're going to talk about how do we craft our outbound messaging. We can pull lead lists, we can even do research on our leads, but how do we apply that research and insight into our actual messages? What do we say? How do we boost our reply rates? What kind of icebreakers work and don't work in cold email or cold outbound? So we're going to talk about that in lesson 4. Lesson 5, we're going to talk about the kind of administrative things that we need to do in order to run a successful AI outbound campaign. Stuff like setting up the correct email addresses and email domains, optimizing our LinkedIn profiles to boost reply rates. Things like this that we just need to set up to optimize our AI outbound systems so we're ready to run. Lesson 6, we're going to actually talk about the systems that we can use to actually run our outreach. Do we need to manually type up emails or manually go on LinkedIn and send messages? Not anymore. There's a couple different ways that we could run these systems. One that I really think you guys are going to love that does all of this automatically for you. So we'll talk about that in lesson 6. Lesson 7, we're going to talk about at the very end, once your campaigns are running, once you're getting data back and getting responses, how do we track those analytics? Is there an easy way to do that? And what can we learn from those KPIs? What is our data telling us that allows us to optimize and improve our campaigns? So our goals in this course are twofold. Firstly, we want to get you up to speed and teach you the knowledge you need to understand AI outbound and give you the knowledge you need to actually be able to implement and tweak and run successful AI outbound campaigns. And then 2, we want to actually get you set up and running your own AI outbound campaign by the end of lesson 7. And so every single course is going to have a homework assignment. And if you follow those, by the end, your AI outbound campaign will be up and running in tandem with ours, and you'll be off to the races generating leads on autopilot. All right. So without further ado, let's get into this thing. Hey everybody, and welcome to lesson 1 of AI Outbound 101. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about what AI outbound actually is and how it differs from traditional outbound systems. All right, so let's hop in. So I think most of you guys are pretty aware of what traditional outbound looks like. What we're talking about when I say traditional outbound is the way we've done cold outreach for the last 35 or 40 years. Okay, it normally involves, going down a lead list one by one, maybe in LinkedIn, and messaging these people in one-off ways to hope that they buy our product. It normally involves buying a lead list from like a shady company around the world and hoping that some people on this lead list that we email will respond positively to our offer. It normally involves, typing out one by one messages on LinkedIn or email and just hoping that somebody replies. It involves, cold outreach teams like cold callers, teams of just people calling random phone numbers and hoping that somebody responds positively to our message. This is what I mean when I'm talking about traditional outbound. This is the way it's always been. It's more of a numbers game than anything. You're spraying and praying. There's no real personalization. Any personalization you do takes so much time and effort that it's almost easier just to, send out a high volume of emails that all look the same to a random list of leads and hope somebody responds. That's traditional outbound. Now, the cool thing about living in this AI world now is, well, obviously AI is very exciting. It's touching on all sorts of different industries all the time. But my favorite impact that it's having so far and where we're trying to specialize is in AI outbound systems. Because all the issues and problems that we just kind of talked about with traditional outbound, we can solve away with AI and with automation. And so if we're kind of comparing the two, if we're comparing kind of traditional outbound with AI outbound systems, the differences kind of fall into four main groups. Okay. And these are the groups we're going to be talking about here throughout the rest of this AI Outbound 101 course. Okay. So the first thing you kind of start with these outbound systems, whether it's traditional or AI, is this data gathering kind of process. Okay. Now with traditional outbound, like I said, gathering this data is very manual. So you're like probably going down a lead list in LinkedIn, and maybe you're going through your connections and hoping somebody maybe is worthy of messaging. Maybe you're buying lead lists. Maybe you're in Zoom info and hoping that there's some sort of, database of people that maybe you reach out to. With AI outbound, we can automate away a lot of this. All right. So we can use scraping tools. We can use, AI insights to actually pull lead lists for us that target our own ICP. And we can automate away a lot of this. Okay. So we go from like a manual process to more of an automated process that we don't have to do much. Kind of the next area in the outbound process is personalization. Okay. Now in the past, you'd have to do research manually. If you got a lead list of 1,000 people, for example, and you wanted to write them a personal email, you'd have to go to their LinkedIn profile. You'd have to go to their website. You'd have to find what you could about them online and then maybe make a brief mention of it in your email. Maybe that takes 10 minutes. Maybe that takes 20 minutes. You send the email and then you go to the next lead. Very, very difficult to actually write personalized emails at scale in the traditional outbound way. Now with AI outbound, this is where you really see the benefits of AI really start to shine through, because what you can do now is you can personally research every single lead in your lead list completely automatically. And you can do it in a very rich and profound way. So you can scrape every single lead's LinkedIn profile. You can scrape all of their website data. You can look for other pieces of information that these folks have on Google. And you can build for every single lead a very rich knowledge base or research profile that you can then use later on in your flow to write personal messages. And like I said, you can do all of this automatically. So in one of our upcoming lessons, we're going to really talk about how this works and how we can really automate this away in AI outbound. So that's going to be a really good lesson. The next area that there's really a difference between traditional and AI outbound systems is in the channel coverage. Okay. So in the past, most outbound systems were cold email outbound. Okay. So people are running cold email campaigns. It's a numbers game. You're sending hundreds of thousands of emails a month, hoping that you get, 20 people to respond. And that's kind of how it worked. You couldn't really automate away LinkedIn. You couldn't really automate your voice systems. It was basically just cold email. Now with AI and automation and systems that are coming out like the one we've built with Victoria, is you can kind of do multi-channel sequences completely automatically. And you can set these sequences to run without you having any input. So you can target people on LinkedIn and email and voice all at the same time in tandem in a very complementary way. So you could never do that in the past. You can do that now. And so when you mix this personalization piece and that custom messaging piece where you can curate a message for every single lead that fits exactly what they would want to hear, you mix that with like a multi-channel automation approach, you really start to get really crazy reply rates that you could never do with traditional outbound. So it gets really, really exciting. And then lastly, scalability. Okay, kind of what we've been talking about is, most of the traditional systems were human limited, very manual. Maybe you could pay a lot of money to buy some sort of software that could handle your cold email campaigns for you, but that's kind of about it. Now we have software, like I mentioned, that can do cold calling for you automatically with AI voice agents that can run these email and LinkedIn sequences in tandem completely on autopilot, and that can respond to your leads, respond to all of their responses, positive and negative, completely automatically too. So you don't even have to reply. So all of these features together is where we're going to focus our course on here in AI Outbound 101. Okay, so we're going to go through each of these in detail. We're going to have homework assignments and all sorts of cool stuff for you guys to do to get your AI outbound systems up and running. All right, so why does manual prospecting not scale? Well, two main reasons. One is time. Like we've said, researching leads, writing messages, and following up manually takes so much time and takes a lot of money accordingly. Okay, so like I said, most companies have a full team of SDRs or BDRs doing this full time. They're sourcing leads, they're calling them, they're qualifying them, they're following up with them, they're trying to get them on a meeting. And all of that takes thousands and thousands of dollars and hundreds of hours a week. So what if we could automate away, 95% of that? That'd be amazing. All right, and then the second issue is inconsistency. Okay, so when a person stops working, so does the outreach. Okay, and so you can't really scale it without putting in, a one-for-one, correlation with time and effort. Okay, so you have to put in the effort, you have to put in the time to generate results. The thing with AI Outbound is you can detach that input of effort with the results of the outreach, because the system and the AI can run all of that for you automatically. Even if you're sick, even if you're not in the office, even if you're lazy and you don't want to do something that day, the AI outreach will continue to run and book meetings to your calendar. All right, so it's really cool. Now, here are the core components of AI Outbound. All right, so automation is the first thing. So we just talked about that. So your system will handle the repetitive tasks of sourcing the leads, sending the messages, following up with the leads, personalizing the leads, and doing the research. Okay, so all of that stuff is happening automatically. You don't have to do anything once you set the system up, which is obviously incredibly important, because now you can focus your efforts and your time and energy elsewhere around the business. All right, enrichment. Okay, so a core component of AI Outbound is enrichment. So this is the research piece. This is every single lead we're going to build a custom knowledge base for. We're going to scrape all their information on their LinkedIn, see what posts they're posting about, see what they're talking about on LinkedIn. We're going to scrape their website to see what services they're offering, see what products they have, et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to be able to build personal knowledge bases for every single one of our leads. Right? You couldn't do that in the past. Thirdly is personalization. So once you have those research knowledge bases, how do you use that information to write each lead a personal message that will boost reply rates? So can we write them custom icebreakers that they would respond to? Can we not rely on templates that people can see right through and write them like a custom message for them that looks like we took the time to write it ourselves? So we can do all this now with AI. We talked about multi-channel delivery. So we can do email, LinkedIn, and voice outbound systems in tandem, playing each channel off of each other in a complementary way. You couldn't do that in the past. And then lastly is this optimization loop. So, can the system improve itself over time? What analytics and KPIs do we get out of our system so that we can, tweak it and refine it and improve it over time? Okay. So those are the core components of AI Outbound, and that is what differs from traditional outbound. Okay, so that is what AI Outbound is. Now you guys have a very good sense of where we're going in this course. Like I said, we're going to break all of these down with their own lessons in subsequent modules. So hang tight for those. But now you have a sense of where we're going, okay? And so your first homework assignment is I want you to go sign up for Victoria. This is the AI Outbound system that we have developed here at version 7. And this is what we're kind of going to build our AI Outbound campaigns with. I'm going to, in every lesson, give you alternative ways to run your AI Outbound campaigns, but those will be much more difficult to build. It's much easier just to go sign up for Victoria. It's completely free to get started and tag along in that way, okay? So go sign up there. It's completely free. That is your homework before we start lesson 2. All right, we'll see you guys in lesson 2. Hey everybody, and welcome to lesson 2 of AI Outbound 101. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about how the heck we get a lead list that we can use to run our AI outbound campaign. So this is one of the hardest problems to solve in traditional outbound. Where do we get our leads from? How the heck do we do this? And how do we not pay an arm and a leg to do so? Like I said, traditional outbound, normally to build a lead list, you'd either pay a couple $1,000 for a list of leads from a kind of a shady company, or you'd go one by one down your LinkedIn connection list and hope, those people are worthy of reaching out to. That's kind of the way you do it, or you cold call like a list of random phone numbers that you buy. Okay. So that's traditionally what you would do. But now we don't need to do that. Now we have much easier and more efficient ways to build lead lists that target your ICP for either free or way less money than it would have cost otherwise. Okay. And so we're going to talk about all of those ways to do that right now. All right. So I have 3 recommended ways that I would build a lead list for pretty cheap. Okay. Now there's other ways you can do this. These are my favorite 3, and these are the ones we're going to talk about today. The first way that I would build a lead list is through Apollo. Okay. Now, if you've never used Apollo, I'll show it to you right now, but it's basically the easiest and simplest way to build a lead list that has all the information you need to run a multi-channel outreach campaign across email, LinkedIn, and voice. Okay. So Apollo, I'll go into it right now briefly. Apollo essentially is a list or a database of like 230 million business leads or contacts. All right. It's kind of insane. And I don't know how Apollo got all this information, but they have it. Okay. And so what you can do is in Apollo, you can actually come in here and like filter this list, for different job titles, for example, different, let's see, locations. So I can do just, United States, different keywords. So I could do, SaaS companies. And you can build lead lists this way pretty efficiently and pretty quickly. And you can really, get down into the nitty gritty to build your ICP very granularly. So it's really good. So, just that quickly, I've built a little lead list here of about 26,000 contacts. And you can see in Apollo, what's really great is you get all the information you need right here. So you get the name of the lead, you get their title, you get their company name. You also, very importantly, get their email address so we can email them with our email campaigns. You get their phone number so we can call them with our voice agent, okay? So we can layer in voice into our outreach campaigns. And you also get their LinkedIn URL, which isn't going to show up here, but you get that as well, which is very, very important because LinkedIn it's really the most effective channel in our cold outreach, especially for B2B contacts. So out of Apollo, you get email address, phone number, and LinkedIn URL. And so with all 3 of those in your pocket, you can then target these leads across email, LinkedIn, and voice, okay? And that's very important. All right, so this is Apollo. Now, Apollo is decently expensive, especially when you start exporting these out to lists, okay? So, you can export a list of 10,000 out, but you got to pay a couple $100 a month to do that. And it kind of adds up. So I will have linked down below in this course a way that you can kind of get around that if you wanted to. Okay, so I'll have that. We will come back to Apollo here in a couple minutes when we actually go through how to build an ICP and how to, get a lead list filtered correctly and then export it out of Apollo. So we'll come back to this in a second, but I want to hop back to our next 2 recommended sources in pulling lead lists. Okay. So the next way I would pull a lead list is by using a cool little framework where we use LinkedIn Sales Navigator, connected to a tool called Phantom Buster, connected to a tool named Any Mail Finder. Okay. Now we're not going to go into this in detail in this video. I've got videos on this in the past, and this is a little more complex and a little more expensive than just going the Apollo route, which is what we're going to use in our course. But I wanted to show this to you nonetheless, just to show you that there are different ways you can pull lead lists in more creative ways. All right, and so how this works is you would basically pay for a LinkedIn Sales Navigator license. It costs about $120 a month. And then you would go into LinkedIn Sales Nav and actually build like a filtered list of leads out of LinkedIn. Okay, it would look just like Apollo, where you can filter by company name, location, size, etc. And you would build a LinkedIn Sales Navigator list of leads, basically. What you do then is you'd copy that URL, that search URL that you've just built, and you'd come into a tool named Phantom Buster. And Phantom Buster is just the way that you can scrape the leads off of LinkedIn Sales Nav. Okay, so LinkedIn Sales Nav, they don't give you a way to export your leads or your list. And so you need to use something called Phantom Buster to scrape that data off of LinkedIn. Okay. And so what you would do is you'd come into Phantom Buster and you'd add basically one of their phantoms, they call it, which would be this one right here. Okay. And this one is called your Sales Navigator Search Export. And what you do is you just kind of add this to your profile and you just paste in that LinkedIn Sales Nav URL right here like this. All right. You'd hit save. And then from there, you attach your LinkedIn account. All right. Again, you need LinkedIn Sales Nav. You'd hit save, and then you would export this list. Okay. And what you're going to get here is an exported list as a CSV file of the basically ICP list that you just filtered in LinkedIn Sales Nav. Okay. So you're going to get this as a CSV. All right. Now, the problem is with this second flow here. The problem with this second flow and why I recommend Apollo over this flow is because when you export out of LinkedIn, LinkedIn doesn't give you the email address of your leads. Okay, so if you want to do a multi-channel outreach campaign across email, LinkedIn, and voice, you don't get their email address. LinkedIn, they don't give that to you. They protect the privacy of their users. And so what you would have to do is once you get your CSV file out of Phantom Buster, is you'd have to come to a third tool called Any Mail Finder. Okay, and this also costs money. And so what you would do then is you'd essentially drop in your lead list, and this would try and find the email of every single person in your lead list by doing something called email enrichment. Okay, and I think it's called nominative email enrichment. And basically what it does is it takes a list of leads, it takes their first name, and it takes their domain, and it basically sends test emails, 3 or 4 of them, to different variations of their email at their domain. So for example, if I had a lead list that said Alex Leisho, and it had my domain as version7.ai, all right, and we didn't have an email address, basically what Any Mail Finder would do is send like 3 or 4 different emails, alex.l@version7.ai, and it would send an email. And if it got a response back or it delivered, it would know my email was legit. If it sent a.leisho@version7.ai and it got a bounce or this email doesn't exist, it would know that that email address wasn't real. Okay, and so it does that for every single person in your lead list until it finds the an email address that delivers their test email. So what you're going to get here is of a list of, let's say, 2,000 leads out of LinkedIn Sales Nav. You're probably going to get a list of 1,000 email addresses. So maybe 50%, maybe sometimes 60% of the people that you pull, you're going to get an email address from. Okay, but what you have at the end of this is you have their LinkedIn URL, their email, and their phone number, and so you can use that for your multi-channel outreach. So this second flow here, LinkedIn Sales Nav, Phantom Buster, Any Mail Finder, it's a way to do it. It's a more expensive way to do it than just using Apollo and exporting from there. But it is a way to do it that I've done in the past. Like I said, we're not going to go into it here because I don't think it's worth it. Now, a third way to pull a lead list, and this is actually a really cool way, okay? This is going to involve using something called Apify, which we'll talk about here in just a second, and then also using Any Mail Finder to enrich the emails of these leads, all right? And I have a couple videos on how to do scrapes like this, which I'm going to talk about in just a second. One being a hiring intent system and one being a Google Maps leads. Okay, so let me tell you what Apify is because you probably have no idea what that is. All right, so Apify is a marketplace of basically bots that can scrape data off of different sites. All right, so there used to be an Apollo Apify bot that could scrape your lead list from Apollo. There are LinkedIn Apify bots that can scrape your LinkedIn profile, for posts or leads and stuff like that. You can scrape TikTok, you can scrape Instagram, Facebook, etc. Okay, so there's all these leads that you can use here in Apify. And so what you can do is, depending on what kind of outreach you want to do, you can check to see if Apify has a bot that can scrape that data source for you to build a lead list. All right. So, for example, in this video here, I built something called a hiring intent lead gen system. What does that mean? Well, let's say, for example, I am offering content generation service. That's my business. I write blog posts for people. Let's say I wanted to build a lead list of people who needed blog posts written. All right. Well, what I could do is I could go to Apollo and pull a list of creative agencies or marketing agencies or SaaS companies that I think might need a blog post. Or I could maybe get a little more creative and I could come to Apify and I could say, hey, I wonder if I could scrape, Indeed for any company that has posted a job about hiring a content writer or a blog post writer. Because what that would mean is that company is looking for help in writing blog posts or writing content. And I should build a lead list of those people, reach out to them and say, hey, I offer content services for a quarter of the cost of a full-time employee. Instead of, hiring somebody and paying them benefits, I'll do this for you for a monthly retainer. And so what you can do is you can come to Appify and you could go to like, let's just do Indeed, for example. And you could actually start scraping leads using this bot off of Indeed. So you could basically scrape any job post off Indeed in the US, for example, that is hiring a content writer. You can get the name of the person who's posting that job. So that's the person you're going to reach out to. You can get like the website, so you have their domain. And then what you do is once you have that, you just need the email address and you use any mail finder again. Okay. So you could plug that back into any mail finder. They could give you the emails of, half to 60% of those folks. And then you can outreach to them. All right. Another thing you can do on Appify, another example, just to give you, a full, picture here of what you can do with Appify and building these lead lists, is you could build like a Google Maps lead system. Okay. And I have another video here that can walk you through exactly how to do that. And by the way, this right here is going to be in our school community. And so you just go down below and all these videos will be there. All right. And so what you do in this system, for example, is let's say I'm a website building company. I do web dev. I build websites for people, maybe even local businesses. And I want a list of local businesses that I can reach out to and pitch my web design services to. Well, how can I do that? Well, I could go to Apollo and, filter the lead list for anyone in my area. So I could go to location and, go to Nashville, Tennessee, and pull up all the local contacts in Nashville. I could do that. Or if I want to get even more granular and get even more information on them, well, I can come to Appify and I could see if, there's a way I could scrape Google Maps, for example. Okay. And there's a bunch of them. And so what I could theoretically do is go into Google Maps, look for any business, in our area, in a certain industry, and then plug that in here to this scraper. And this bot will go and scrape Google for all of those leads, all those contacts. Now, again, you might not get email with this scrape, but you'll get domain and you'll get name of the contact. And with that, you're in good shape, because then what you can do is come right back into any mail finder and enrich that for the email address. Okay. And like I said, there's a bunch of these Appify bots that you can use to start creatively scraping leads in different ways. So this is just two examples that I gave you, scraping Indeed and scraping Google Maps. Like I said, I have very advanced videos on how you can do both of those. So check those videos out. But like I said, the easiest and best way to pull a list of B2B leads that I prefer, and the cheapest, is just to use Apollo. Okay. And so what I want to do now is I want to actually walk through, an example of, pulling a lead list in Apollo, pulling that out of Apollo, so that then we can, move on to lesson 3 and start personalizing it. All right. So I've put together a kind of a framework and checklist, and this is going to be part of your homework. All right. But I'm going to walk through this with you here right now. Okay. So I'm just going to open this up, and we're basically just going to answer these questions together. Okay. All right. And so in this course, we're going to be a SaaS company that offers lead generation software to clients around the world. Okay, so that's going to be our persona. Okay, so in this example, we're going to kind of walk through that together. And so what this ICP framework and checklist is basically doing is helping us build a lead list that we can filter for in Apollo and that we can target in our outbound campaign. So that's basically what we're doing here. Okay, and we're going to answer these questions together, so you can see kind of what I'm thinking about, what you should be thinking about for your company, so that you can build your own lead list in Apollo as well. Okay. So step 1, we're going to define our perfect customer. All right. So what kind of businesses do we serve best? Well, I would say we serve, any B2B company, agency, consulting firm that is looking for B2B leads. All right. So any company looking for B2B leads. That's what I'd say. Okay. Again, that can be agencies, that can be consulting firms, marketing agencies, etc. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to target. Company size, who gets the most value? I would say small to medium sized companies that maybe don't have the manpower to generate leads or pay people to generate leads for them, that might need like an automated system that can generate leads for them. Okay, So I'm going to say small to medium probably. Okay. So we'll go with that for now. Where are our ideal clients located? We normally target like North America, Europe, and sometimes Asia. Okay, so that's normally what we go after. All right. Is there a pain point or a trigger event? Like what signals that they might need us? Well, maybe they are hiring for a B2B sales rep. Maybe they just got recent funding and they're growing and they have money to spend on lead gen. I'd probably go with that. This question here is going to kind of help you, decide how you want to pull these leads. So do you want to do that hiring intent lead gen system that I showed you? Do you want to scrape off Appify, maybe a Google Maps, stuff like that? Okay. We're going to go with this for now. All right. Step 2, we're going to define the decision maker. All right. So now that we have a list of companies that we want to target, so we have, B2B companies that are small to medium size in North America and Europe. Who do we want to target at those companies? Who do we want to reach out to? Do we want to target senior analysts or do we want to target decision makers, executives that can actually pull the trigger here and actually say yes to our offer? And that's exactly what we want to do. So we want to target decision makers. All right. And so, for example, who do we want to target? So for us, we want to probably talk to, CEOs, founders, VPs of sales, maybe even VP of marketing, COOs, co-founders, owners, and co-owners. Okay, so these are the people that probably we'd want to reach out to for like lead gen services or to sell our lead gen service. All right, head of growth is another one. So we'll do that, and we'll be good there. Now, if you're not selling lead gen, maybe you're doing like a content agency, you'd probably want to reach out to more of the marketing side, content side, stuff like that. If you're building more of like an operations voice agent, maybe you want to go after the COO, director of ops, customer support, stuff like that. Okay, so this is really going to vary on what your offer is going to be. Again, in our dummy example, we're selling lead gen, and so we're going to go after founders, CEOs, and growth roles. Okay, seniority level, like I said, we want to do director and higher at least. All right. And maybe we want to even just do VP and higher. So you want people in positions of power with authority that can actually hop on a call with you and say yes to whatever you're offering them. Okay, you don't want to go after like analysts that have no say. All right. And then we can target keywords in job title if we wanted to. So, for us, it'd be like sales, revenue, and growth. Okay. Okay. All right, cool. So with that set, we are going to actually go and build our Apollo list now. Okay, so this is going to be really fun. So I'm going to come to Apollo, and based off all that information, we're going to start whittling stuff down here. So I'm going to clear this out just so we can start from scratch. All right, so we've got to start 233 million leads. So let's build our list now based off all the answers we just gave. Okay. So email status, we want to set this as verified. So this is these are emails that Apollo has already verified. So these are legit emails. Okay, so that gets us down to 83 million. All right, job titles. What do we talk about? We talked about owner. We talked about CEO. We talked about founder. We talked about head of sales. We talked about VP of sales maybe. And then maybe VP of growth. Okay, so that's who we're targeting. All right, we're going to head down to location. All right, and location, what do we say? So we want to do North America. We want to do Europe. And we want to do Asia. Okay, perfect. All right, company size. We said small to medium, so we're going to go 1 through, let's do 100. All right. And then we're going to come down to industry and keywords. And we're going to include, keywords like, agency, and maybe B2B. And let's do lead gen. We can sell lead gen services to lead gen companies. All right, perfect. All right, and so that gets us to a list of about 1 million leads, which is way too many. We don't need that many. So maybe we get a little more granular here in where we're going to target. Maybe we're just going to do this campaign in, let's do Nashville. Okay, so we'll run a local campaign here. So we'll do Nashville. And we'll see what that brings us. Okay, so there's a list of 3.4 thousand leads. Okay, so that's better. Okay, so we have a list of 3,000 leads. All right, again, we have email, phone number, and LinkedIn profile for all of those. And this looks pretty good. So these are all B2B companies, people with authority that we think we could sell lead gen services to. Okay, so this looks good. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to, if we're on a paid Apollo plan, we're going to actually just select all here. We're going to hit apply. And then, if you're not on a paid plan, you're going to get this this little issue here where you need to hop on to export your leads. I'm going to have a link in the course notes down below that can help you solve this issue. Okay, so just go down there, wink, wink, and go and pull your lead list with that link. Okay, so anyways, now that we have our list and it's exported, we're in really good shape. Okay, so that lead list is pulled now. We're in good shape. And I've just dropped kind of a dummy demo list here into Google Sheets. This is a direct export out of Apollo, so yours will look basically exactly the same as this, where you're going to get first name, last name, company name, website, email, their LinkedIn profile, their title, and then like 30 other fields that I have hidden way out here. Okay, and we don't need those necessarily right now, so I'm just going to hide those. All right, so your lead list is going to look something like this. All right, and so let's go back to our homework document and see what we do next. All right, so we've saved the search, we've exported our leads, and now we need to run these through something called email list verify. Okay, so what does that mean? So something I didn't mention back in our lesson 2 is that in order to make sure that our delivery on our emails is, good and we're not sending to busted emails, is we need to make sure that we run all these emails through something called email list verify. Okay, this is just one little cleanup piece that we do on the way to building our lead list. All right, so remember we talked about in Apollo they have this verify email status where they're verifying these emails for us, but I found that it's always better to run this through one more step of verification before we start sending emails, so we don't bounce and hurt our email domain, which we'll talk about in lesson 5 or 6. Okay, so we have this lead list out of Apollo. We have a list of emails. So what do? So I'm going to basically save this down as a CSV file. All right, and then I'm going to come to this tool called email list verify. All right, and I'm going to upload my list here. And basically all this is going to do is go through my emails here in column E, and it's going to send them test emails. And as long as they deliver, we've basically verified that lead. Okay, and it's safe to send to. All right, so we're going to come back to email list verify. We have 10 dummy emails to test. We're just going to choose standard quality, and we're going to verify the uploaded list. And so at the end of this, I'll show you the output here. But at the end of this, we're going to have a list of leads that is almost double verified, and it's going to protect us. Okay, so it looks like we're done here. Looks like 7 of those emails are safe to send. So I'm going to download this. I'm going to choose all emails. And I'm going to download as a CSV. I'm going to come back to Google Sheets and show you what happened here. So I'm just going to show you that if I import this here, and I go to upload, and I browse, and I go pick that new CSV, I'm going to append to the current sheet. We can actually see what we get out of this. Okay, so let me clean this up a little bit for you. And so you can see that we sent test emails to all 10 of these leads, and most of them are good, except for this one, email disabled, mailbox not found. So this obviously Apollo missed, and we're not going to want to send. We're not going to want to send any emails to this one. Okay. So we can either filter that out or just delete. All right. So I'll just delete that from our list here. All right. And that's that. Okay, so now that we've cleaned this lead list up and we've deleted Charlotte out of our list, I've just cleaned this sheet up a little bit for us. But all of these emails are verified, so we're in good shape. All right. So what we're going to do now as part of your homework is we're going to actually upload this into Victoria AI. All right. And now I mentioned Victoria AI earlier on in the course, but essentially this is our AI SDR system that is basically going to run these AI outbound campaigns for you at scale. Okay. And so as part of your homework, like I said, by the end of this course, you're going to be fully set up, ready to run your own AI outbound campaigns. And so what we're going to do now is, since we've just pulled our list in Apollo, we've cleaned it up in email list verify, and we've got our leads here of 9. What we're going to do is we're going to actually get this uploaded into Victoria together so that you know how it looks, what to do, and then we can move on to lesson 3. All right. So we're going to take our lead list here, and we're just going to download it as a CSV. And then we're going to hop over to Victoria. All right. You're going to launch a campaign. All right. So if you haven't made a campaign yet, you should have done that in your first homework lesson, but you're just going to launch a new campaign. All right. And we'll do this right now. So Victoria AI Outbound 101 demo. We're going to create the campaign. All right. And we're going to come over to our leads tab. And we're going to upload our leads. So I'm going to choose CSV file. I'm going to upload that lead list that I just exported out of Google Sheets. And you can see here's our 9 leads. Okay. And it's very intuitive. We just want to map our fields here. So first name to our first name field, last name to our last name field, email to email. Our LinkedIn URL is going to be our LinkedIn column right here. Okay. Again, that's very important. So we can message them on LinkedIn. All right. Company website. And we can map other fields if we want to. So company name and title. So anything we map here, we can use in our sequence later on as variables. Okay. So we're just going to scroll down and we're going to upload our CSV and we're going to let those leads process. All right. And that's it for our homework. Okay. So we're all good. So we defined our ICP. We pulled our lead list in Apollo based off that ICP. We downloaded 100 leads and we cleaned them in email list verify using these links here. And then lastly, we dropped those leads into Victoria for use in our AI outbound campaign. All right. So guys, that is lesson number 2. That is the best and easiest way to get leads for AI outbound campaigns. Again, in summary, there are many ways you can pull lead lists these days. I would prefer to use, and what I recommend you to use, Apollo, because it's just so easy to build customized, very granular ICP for you in your campaigns. All right. You can also use LinkedIn Sales Nav, Phantom Buster, and any mail finder if you'd rather go that route. It's a little more expensive, a little more convoluted, and takes a little more work, but it does work. Or if you want to build your lead list off Appify by scraping different platforms, you can do that as well. So if you want to, scrape Indeed for people hiring jobs, if you want to scrape Google Maps for people in your area, if you want to scrape Instagram for people that you want to target in maybe in the fitness industry on Instagram, you can do all of that and get creative by using an Appify bot and pairing that with any mail finder. All right. So a lot of options at your disposal. Almost every single time you pull a lead list, you want to drop that through email list verify just to make sure that your emails don't bounce. And that's it. That's how you pull your lead list. That's what I would recommend. And now we're in good shape to move to lesson 3, where we're going to talk about how we actually personalize and build research profiles for every single lead that we just pulled here in lesson 2. So we'll see you in lesson 3. Hey everybody, welcome to lesson 3 of AI Outbound 101. In this lesson, we're going to be talking about how you can personalize and build custom research profiles for every single one of your leads. This normally in traditional outbound would have taken hours and hours and hours and, wasn't really practical at all. But now with the help of AI, we can build very rich research profiles for every single one of our leads in a matter of a few seconds and completely hands-free. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so personalization is what turns automation into connection. So this is how we're going to make sure that when we scale up our outreach, we don't lose that human connection that is going to make sure people actually want to reply to us. We don't want to sound like a bot. We don't want to sound like AI. We want to sound like us writing personal messages to these leads, all right? And so our goals for personalization are to build a custom knowledge base for each lead. We're going to do that by scraping LinkedIn and the website of every single lead in our lead list. Okay, so we're going to be able to see what every lead is posting on LinkedIn, what they're talking about on LinkedIn, what their company is working on LinkedIn. We're also going to be able to go to their website and see what services this company offers, where are they located, and all the information on all the pages of their website. And we're going to basically condense all of that information into a custom knowledge base for every single lead. It's pretty sick. All right. And then once we have that knowledge base, then what we want to do is use all that knowledge, use all that custom research to write them a personalized message that they relate to and that they'll respond to. All right. And so that's the goal here in personalization. I think this is one of the most important and powerful ways that AI has impacted our outbound strategies. And so this is going to be a really awesome lesson. So there's a couple options for personalizing at scale. All right. The first, and what I would recommend, is using a system like Victoria. So our AI Outbound SDR system that we built that can do all of this for you completely automatically. All right. So I'll show you this first. And then if you don't want to use Victoria, I'll show you another way that you can do it in make.com. All right. So we'll have both depending on what you want to do. So let's come into Victoria. If you completed lesson 2 already, you already have your lead list uploaded. Okay. And then all we're going to do to create our custom research profiles is we're going to come to this AI personalization tab. And what we're going to do is add a new personalization field. All right. And so let's say, for example, I want to write a custom icebreaker for every lead. Okay. So I'll say this is my icebreaker. And then what I'm going to do, and I'll zoom in here so you can see this, is I'm going to check these 2 boxes. And that's it. You are now going to be able to scrape every single lead's LinkedIn profile and website to build a custom knowledge base. That's all you have to do. That's it. All right. And now with those checked and with that scrape happening, we can tell the Victoria agent basically what to do with that information. So I can say, hey, with the scraped information, write me a custom icebreaker, 1 sentence for each lead. And I can train it. So I can say, here's an example of something I like. Here is an example of what I like. Hey, Alex, love the work you're doing with kids down in Nashville. Stoked to connect. Something like that. Okay. And you can make that whatever you want. And you're going to hit add field. That's it. And now Victoria is going to be able to, like I said, build that research profile. And then for every single lead, write a custom icebreaker. Okay. Now we're going to go through in our homework here at the end of lesson 3, setting up a few more of these personalization fields and actually prompting this in like a more robust way. But I just wanted to show you that here firstly. Okay. Now, if you don't want to use Victoria, that is okay. Although that is personally, I think, the easiest and simplest way to do it. You saw that took about 30 seconds. All right. But if you don't want to use Victoria, that is okay because we can use a scenario in make.com by using a tool named Perplexity. And we can personalize and do research that way if we wanted. It's more expensive and it takes a little longer to set up, but you can do that if you wanted to. Okay. And so I'm going to show you how to do that now. I'm going to have this template here for you guys to upload into make.com if you want to do it this way. But anyways, so here's what we do. So there's a tool named Perplexity. If you've never heard of it, it's essentially an AI Google, right? And what you can do is you can type your name into Perplexity with, let's say, your job title and your company name, and you hit enter. And what Perplexity is going to do is it's going to scrape the internet for you, and it's going to build you a custom, basically research profile based off what it can find. So it says, hey, is a company based in Nashville, Tennessee. I specialize in building no-code systems that streamline business operations, optimize workflows, and drive growth. All right. I used to work in finance, and now I use automation tools. Prior to my current company, version 7, I founded another company named Automatio. And so it's got all this really cool stuff here. It knows I have a YouTube channel and a school community, and it's pretty crazy. It even has my email. Okay. So what you can do then is if you throw all of your leads into Perplexity one by one, and for every lead you get like a profile that looks like this, well, there's your knowledge base. There's your customized research. Now, maybe you don't have all the information that you need about their company or their LinkedIn profile, but you still have enough here to write like a custom message for somebody. And so if I come into make.com here, you can see my scenario here that you can use to basically connect your Google Sheets leads. So remember, these are the leads that we pulled in lesson 2. All right, and remember, we've cleaned these emails up, but we want to personalize. So we want to build, for each of these leads, custom research and a custom icebreaker, for example. All right, and so what this scenario is going to do is do just that. And so I'll kind of break this down for you here and show you how this is built. So our first module here is a Google Sheets module. All right. And what it's going to do is it's going to basically scrape our Google Sheet here for anybody who doesn't have a research profile or an icebreaker. Okay. So we're just looking for empty research and icebreaker columns J and K. Okay. So we're going to pull anything that has an empty research field into this flow. All right. So I'll run this for you and you'll see what pops out, but you can see that I should get 9 different bundles here, 1 bundle for each of my leads that don't have research. Perfect. That looks good. Okay, so 9 bundles. What I'm then going to do is I'm going to feed each of those leads into my Perplexity module. Now you need to be on a paid Perplexity plan for this. You need to have an API profile. And this cost does add up, but if you just do 9 leads, it doesn't cost much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed in their full name, their title, and their company name into Perplexity. So it's exactly what I did back here, where I typed in my name, my title, and then my company name. All right, I'm just going to do that, automatically here in make.com. Okay, and what that is going to do, I'll show you. I'll run this module and I'll type in, version 7. I'll type in Alex Leisho, and I'll type in co-founder. What that's going to do is actually give me the research profile. All right. And this is just going to do it programmatically instead of me having to do it here. And so you can see that if I come down to, I think it's choices +1 message content, you can see I get, again, a research profile of all my information. All right. Again, that's happening automatically, completely programmatically. All right. And then what I can do is I can feed all that information into OpenAI or into ChatGPT if you've never used the API before. All right. And so what this is basically doing is saying, hey, you're a helpful icebreaker generator. Okay. I'm going to give you custom research on a lead, and I want you to write a custom icebreaker for that lead. Please return this in JSON format. You don't have to worry about that. Again, this template will be linked in the course notes right here. So you can just upload this into your Make profile. I'm going to drop in that dynamic research that we just looked at coming out of that Perplexity module back up there. Okay. And then I give it some examples that I like. Okay. So I say, hey, here's some examples of some icebreakers that I like. Copy these basically. All right. And that's that. Okay. I'm going to return this as a JSON object and I'm going to parse that response. And then what I'm going to do is OpenAI is going to write that icebreaker for me. And then I'm just going to update my columns back here with that output. Okay. And so I'll show you this run live right now. All right. So I'm going to run this scenario and we're going to watch live as we drop every single lead's name, company name, email, or we're going to drop every single lead's name, company name, and title into Perplexity. We're going to drop that research profile here and we're going to write them a custom icebreaker. Okay, so let's watch this in action. So I'm going to hit run and we're going to watch this start populate. Okay, so we just pulled in all 9 of our leads. We're researching the first one. We're now writing the first icebreaker of our first lead based off the research that we just pulled. And then we're going to drop it here into Google Sheets. Okay, so if I come here, you can see that we've got all this populating here just like this. All right, so we've got our research profile. Let me see if I can expand this. All right, so we've got all this research on Leah. All right. And then we have an icebreaker here. Okay. So saw how you went from running a solo transcription business to founding Holt, community of 600 plus members worldwide. You're truly inspiring. Okay. And we just saw our second one just came into for Jim. Perfect. And with another icebreaker. So saw your recent presentation on youth media landscapes. Your take on leveraging VR for student engagement, like the Monash University project you shared, was really inspiring. So it's actually going in and finding like pretty granular things here about these leads. Okay. So again, this is a way you could do it. and this is going to run here until we're done with all 9. Every single search you do in Perplexity is going to cost a couple pennies. But you can do it this way if you want it. Again, I would recommend using Victoria because this happens for you automatically and it's much, much cheaper. You can run like 4 different personalization fields for like 1,000 leads for like $3 or $4. It's incredibly cheap. It's basically free. All right. Something like this, running in Perplexity for 1,000 leads, could cost you 15, 20, $30, somewhere in that range. Okay. So Perplexity adds up, but you can do that if you want. So anyways, back to our lesson here. Again, the goals here are to build custom knowledge base for every single lead. We want to scrape their LinkedIn and their website and any other information we can to build custom research profiles. Then we want to use that research to craft custom messages. Okay. Again, there's 2 ways to do that. I would recommend using Victoria, but if you don't want to use Victoria, you can use the make template that we just went over. Okay. So the homework that I have for you guys here in lesson 3 is I want you to go to Perplexity and type in your name and your company name and your title and see what pops up about you. If you've never used Perplexity, it's kind of crazy. So go over there, have a little fun, see what AI can find about you, and hopefully it doesn't creep you out because it's pretty accurate. And then next, what I want you to do is, if you are using Victoria, I want you to go through this personalization field instruction guide, which is going to walk you through exactly how to set up these personalization fields in Victoria. Okay, so I'm going to walk through all of that with you right now. So please tag along because again, all these homeworks are designed to basically get you up and running by the end of AI Outbound 101 to launch your outbound campaign. All right, so let's hop into the homework here. So we are going to set up 2 personalization fields. The first is going to be called Icebreaker, right? Which I kind of already have. So I'm just going to edit this one. So you want one called Icebreaker. All right, add a description. This is my Icebreaker. And then I actually give you like a prompt here that has worked very well for me that we can just copy in here to our AI instructions. Okay, so just copy that in like that. Again, you want to check website and LinkedIn, and we're going to hit update field or save field. Okay, so that's the first piece of homework. The next is going to be, we're going to do a second one called pain point. Okay, and so basically we want to, for every lead, we want to research a problem that they're having. All right. Now mine is going to be, because remember in our demo, we are selling lead gen services. So I'm looking for a problem in each lead's client acquisition process, but you want to tweak this for whatever your offer is going to be. Okay. But this should get you very, very close. So let's launch a second personalization field called pain point. All right. And this is a pain point field. All right. The AI instructions I have right here in the prompt. Okay, so we will just go grab this. And we're going to drop that in like that. Again, you want to scrape a website and LinkedIn. And we're going to hit add field. And that's your homework, guys. It's that easy. So instead of having to go and build this crazy thing here in Make and connect to Google Sheets and pay for Perplexity, we can just do it right here in Victoria in the span of literally a minute. We can set up as many of these as we want. All right, guys, so that is lesson 3. We are very excited to move on to lesson 4, where we're going to start talking about how we actually craft our outbound messaging. All right, so we'll see you in lesson 4. Hey everybody, welcome to lesson 4 in AI Outbound 101. In this lesson, we're actually going to talk about how we craft our outbound messaging to actually boost reply rates and write sequences across email and LinkedIn that actually generate replies. Okay, so how do we structure our actual messages, our cold outbound messages, so that people respond and they're interested in what we have to say? All right, so we are going to talk about the following formula. All right, so I have found in my years of doing AI outbound that the best formula in crafting your messages is a 4-step message. Okay, we're going to start with a personalized icebreaker. Okay, so in lesson 3, we talked about how you build research profiles and how you can actually craft custom icebreakers based off that research. All right, so we want to start with our AI personalized icebreaker. All right, so instead of just having a set template, we can literally say, hey, Alex, I love that you jumped from finance to automation. Really, really inspiring. Hey, can I can I pitch you something? I think you'd like this. I'm going to respond to that at a much higher clip than if somebody just said, hey, I'm selling a lead gen service. It feels personalized. It feels like someone took the time to research me. All right. And so every single message, we want to start with an icebreaker. Okay. And so we'll go through some examples here in a second. But the next step in our message is we want to highlight a problem that every lead is facing. All right. And we want to frame us, our agency, our business, our offer against that problem. So we want to set up the problem, and then we want to deliver our solution in response to that problem. Okay. So we hit them with personalization, we catch their attention. Then we say, hey, we think you're dealing with X, Y, and Z. We run a lead gen agency that can, A, B, C. So you get almost like this natural fit and this natural flow between, oh no, he's right. Like I am dealing with that. Oh, they offer this. Maybe this could be beneficial. And then lastly, we want to hit them with our call to action or our offer. All right. And very importantly is this step right here. We want to be as low friction and as value dense as possible. We want making them say no to be really hard. We want it to be as easy as possible for them to say yes. And normally that involves giving them some sort of free value up front that they can't say no to. All right. We're going to talk about all of these now in detail. So let's talk about icebreakers. Okay. So again, we want to start off with a personalized icebreaker. So a good icebreaker is important to personalize and sound as tailored as possible so that we can boost reply rates and hook them immediately with our cold outreach. Remember, none of these people know us. Okay. And if we can come off in a way that seems like we looked them up, they're going to respond at a higher clip. All right, so let's look at some icebreaker examples here. Some stuff that generally works, that I've seen work over the years when we're talking about, breaking the ice. All right, so here's some general icebreakers for you. So saw your recent post about topic, really like your take on it. So that's, that shows that, we went to the LinkedIn profile. We saw that they're talking about, AI, and we really liked it. We checked out your site. Looks like you've built something strong. Congrats on the recent launch partnership funding. That's a really good one because, that seems like, you're really up to date on what they're doing. We just saw that you just raised some funding. Congrats. Very exciting. Hey, can I pitch you on this? And so we have a bunch of really cool examples here. Okay. I also have some really good kind of niche examples that I've used in different realms. So for example, in our situation, so if we're selling like a lead gen service, okay, we can say something like, hey, saw your company recently expanded services into new market. Congrats on the growth. We can say, hey, we've noticed you're posting more on LinkedIn. Guessing you're ramping up outreach. We can help you with that. Hey, so you have a very solid offer on your product service page. Can we help you blast that offer out? We saw your latest case study. Curious if you're doing outbound or mostly inbound to bring those clients in. So this kind of stuff really works. And again, because we're able to scrape LinkedIn and websites with Victoria, or if you're using the make.com template with Perplexity, you're getting all this information that you can use to make custom icebreakers like this and boost replies. So it's really cool. If you're offering like a content gen services, you can write something like, read your latest blog post on X, great piece, but surprised it's not ranking higher on Google. Can we help you with that? Hey, notice your company's blog hasn't been updated in a bit. Totally normal when client work gets busy. Hey, we can help you, keep that blog collection going, et cetera, et cetera. So all this research we can use to then write them, a very personal message here as an icebreaker. And we have more examples down here as well. Okay, so feel free to check out this example and steal these as much as you need to generate an icebreaker that you like and that feels natural to you. Okay, so that's our icebreaker. Now let's talk about our problem. All right, now if you remember in lesson 3 in Victoria, we created a personalization field named pain point. Okay, and we didn't just do that randomly. That is because what we want to do in every single one of our outreaches is present a problem to that person. All right, so we just kind of talked about a few of those, but like if somebody is, selling content gen services and they look at somebody's website and they don't have an active blog, we could potentially fill that gap. And so we should try and custom research these problems as much as possible so that after the icebreaker, we hit the lead with something that they're dealing with, that they're struggling with, a bottleneck that they're facing, that then we can come in and solve for them. Okay. And so when we set up this research field, in Victoria, we're essentially scraping their LinkedIn profile and their website. And then we're saying, hey, based off everything you learned from that, based off their latest posts, based off their profile, based off what they're talking about, based off their blog posts on their website, I want you to come up with a pain point that this company is facing in the realm of XYZ. Okay, so in this example, we're doing in the realm of client acquisition, but you could do in the realm of content generation, in the realm of customer service voice agents, in the realm of CRM inefficiencies, whatever it is that you're selling. And then Victoria is going to basically write a custom problem for each lead. Okay, and so now you're not just getting a personalized icebreaker to break the ice. You're now also getting a personalized problem that specific company is facing. And so you're almost double personalizing, and it gets really, really sick. All right. And now once you have that problem, well, then you come in with your solution. You say something like, hey, we're a content writing company, and we saw that your blog is inactive. We offer, a monthly content retainer where we, make sure your blog is up to date and we boost your SEO, something like that. Or if you're selling lead gen, hey, we saw that you might be struggling with client outreach, and maybe you don't even have any outreach channels that you're working with. We can help you basically set that up. We are a lead gen agency. All right. So again, the idea here is present the problem and then frame your company and your value prop as the solution to that problem. Okay. So that's very important. And we're going to go over some examples here of this in just a bit. All right. And then what you want to do is you want to then present your call to action / your offer. Okay. And again, like I mentioned, we want this to be as low friction and value dense as possible. All right. And the reason is because, again, this AI outbound, it's all cold. None of these people know us. None of them came to our website and are interested in our product. We're reaching out to these people cold on LinkedIn, email, and voice. And so building trust is very important early on. And the way you build trust is to give as much free value as you can up front without asking for anything. And if you give them that value and they like that value, well, then you're kind of in the door and you can potentially close a deal and get them on a meeting. Okay. So when I talk about, being as value forward as possible, what am I talking about? Well, let's look at some free offer examples. Okay. Now, what used to take hours in traditional outbound in, offering free value up front, you can now automate with AI. All right. And so let me give you an example. So let's say I'm a lead gen agency and I want to sell my lead gen software. I go to somebody, I hit them with the icebreaker. I say, hey, I think you're dealing with client acquisition problems. We are a lead gen agency that can help you solve that problem. Do you mind, and here's our offer / CTA, do you mind if we send you a free lead report of 3 leads that we think you guys could reach out to and have a relationship with? No one in their right mind is going to say no to that. We're going to give you 3 free leads up front, on us, completely complimentary. If you're doing content gen, hey, hit them with the icebreaker. We saw that your blog is inactive. We can fix that for you. Do you mind if we send you 10 free blog posts that you can put on your website for free? They're going to say yes. And so what you can do is start to give this free value without adding any manual work. And so I'll show you some examples here of how you can automate a lot of this. But here's some examples of like free offers that you can provide. Okay. So you can do a free lead report, which I told you about. You could do a free outbound audit. Hey, we're an outbound agency. Do you mind if we, hop on a 30-minute call? We'll give you like a free outbound audit. No, no strings attached. We just want to see if maybe we can help you improve somewhere. You can talk about like a sales page personalization audit. You can review their website. You can give them free content. You can give them a pipeline map, whatever it is you're selling. Right? The idea here is you're giving as much free value up front as possible. Okay. So those are like lead gen ones you could do. Here's content gen ones. So you can offer free SEO scorecard, free blog posts, free content strategy audits, etc. Okay. You can give them free LinkedIn posts, whatever it is you're selling. If you're selling voice agents, hey, can we give you a free customer service demo? Can we give you a free AI receptionist demo? or can we give you like a free customer support savings calculator? Do you mind if we send this to you? Not everybody's going to respond to cold outreach. That's just not going to happen, but you're going to boost, you're going to boost reply rates. Okay. And so we have a bunch of different examples here that you guys can look through here. But I have a really cool video, and it's one of the best videos I've ever made. It didn't do great on YouTube, which is kind of shocking because this is literally the best video I think I've ever made. And what it is it's going to show you how to build a cold outreach system that promises value up front. So it promises a free lead gen report if somebody responds yes, okay, to an email. And if they respond yes, we fire a webhook out that says, hey, this person responded positively. Now let's go generate them a free lead gen report completely automatically and completely personalized for that lead in PandaDoc. And we're going to send it to them. And so I would highly recommend going to watch this video because the reply rates were absolutely insane. Because I was going to them and saying, hey, I've built you a free lead report. It has 3 free leads for you. Can I send that to you? And they would all say yes. Yes, please send that to me. That sounds great. And then I would automatically generate that report for them with their company name, with their personalized data. And I would send them personalized leads with emails, with names, with reasons why I think this lead would be good for them to reach out to. And I would send that to them automatically from PandaDoc. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And so you can get really, really creative with the way you send these free offers. So, for example, if you're sending a free, blog post collection, anytime somebody responds positively to your campaign in Victoria, here, you can send a webhook, and we'll talk about this in a bit, but you can send a webhook out to make.com or N8N to trigger the creation of some sort of custom asset to send to these people. So you can send, a blog post collection that you have AI write, and you send them 10. You can have them generate customized reports out of PandaDoc. All these really cool things. Okay. So, like I said, we are very importantly going to hit them with an icebreaker, a problem that they're facing, frame us as the solution to that problem, and then a very low friction, value forward CTA/offer. That is how you're going to have your best results. And again, all of this is happening automatically. We set it up one time and it runs. Okay. All right. So let's look through a couple examples here of some AI outbound sequences that work. Okay. And these are all sequences that I've used in the past that work very, very well. Okay. So let's look at like a lead gen one to start. All right. So, we're going to send a LinkedIn connection, and we'll talk about how we're going to set all this up in Victoria here in a bit in our homework. All right. But we're going to send a LinkedIn connection, and we're going to dynamically pull in the first name, the company name, and the vertical of each of our leads in our LinkedIn connection note. Okay. And then once they accept that LinkedIn message, we're going to hit them with our formula. So we're going to say, hi, first name, icebreaker. I noticed pain point, again, a dynamic variable. That's a common bottleneck for growing industry teams. Okay, so that's our icebreaker, and that's our pain point or our problem. All right, here's our solution. We build AI-powered lead gen systems that automatically find, contact, and qualify leads daily. Okay. Would you like me to send you a free custom lead report with 100 verified companies that match your ideal client profile? That's our offer. Okay. And it's that simple, guys. It's that simple. A little personalization, a problem, a solution, and then our free offer. That's all you have to do. And again, this is a lead gen example, but we can do this for content as well. Hi, first name. You hit them with an icebreaker again. Okay. Notice pain point. Happens a lot with growing brands that are focused on delivery rather than promotion or content. Here's our solution. We build AI content systems that generate SEO-ready blogs and social posts automatically in your brand voice. All right. Boom. You hit them with a little offer. Can I send you a free SEO scorecard? Right. And that's it, guys. And, you go through the sequence. So, if they don't respond to the LinkedIn, then email the next day. Let me change this to next day. Is, going to say something like, hey, I just sent you a quick note on LinkedIn. So there it is, that multi-channel complementary outreach. Looks like you're dealing with pain point. Here's our free SEO scorecard. Can I send one over? And then, we can go back to LinkedIn after 2 or 3 days, and then back to email after another 2 or 3 days. And we'll talk about how to set up these sequences in Victoria in a bit. But you can get really dynamic and really layered and really nuanced here in the messaging outreach sequences that you set up. Okay. And again, remember, it's always icebreaker, problem, solution, offer. Okay. And we have more examples down here as well for you to look through. But these are the exact templates, the exact messaging I am using to run AI Outbound that we're booking meetings with every single week, completely on autopilot. So feel free to copy these, paste these in to your Victoria system, or if you're running cold email campaigns, please feel free to copy these emails if you're not using Victoria, and use these as you wish, because these work very, very well. Okay. All right. So that is our messaging lesson. Let's hop into a little homework here and kind of go through exactly how we're going to set this up in Victoria. Okay. So we're going to use the guide below, and we're going to craft our outreach messaging. So we're going to come here. Again, here's our formula. And we are going to essentially go through the icebreakers that we like. We're going to define the problem. We're going to define or frame our solution, and then we're going to craft our offer. Okay. So we'll talk through all this here together as part of the demo. Now remember, as this demo, we are pretending to be a lead gen SaaS company selling our lead gen services to B2B agencies or consulting firms. Okay. Okay. So we want an icebreaker. So first thing we want to do is we want an icebreaker. It needs to sound human and show that we did our homework. So we should go to the icebreakers page, which is back in our lesson, and we should pick 2 or 3 formats that we like. So saw a recent post, or checked out your site, love what you're doing, et cetera, et cetera. All right. So I like these 2. And so we can go with that. Okay. And so what we can do is, now that we kind of have like our personalized icebreaker format, we can come into Victoria, go to our personalization field, and we can actually like edit this prompt here and give it some examples of the ones we like. Okay. So you can see this section here that I have. Absolutely love what you're doing at XYZ, especially around supporting children's education in the Congo. Huge fan of what you're doing at ABC. Your work funding children's hospitals in the Congo is especially inspiring. So a little random, but those are the ones that I like. So what I want you to do is go to our icebreakers page that we reviewed. And I want you to like copy 2 or 3 into your personalization field here as examples of the ones you like. Perfect. All right. Now we're going to define the problem that we're solving. All right. So this is going to go hand in hand with the ICP that we built in lesson 2. All right. So remember, we are targeting in our example, in our demo, B2B agencies in North America. Actually, we're doing just Nashville now. And we're targeting founders, owners, head of growth, head of sales, at small to medium-sized companies. Okay. So that's our ICP. And so the problem that they're facing, most likely is client acquisition. They're having trouble generating leads for some reason or another. All right. And so what you want to do is, for whatever campaign you're running here, is you want to come up with whatever the problem is that the companies you're targeting probably are facing. All right. And then what you're going to do is, once you kind of have that, those problem statements written out, then you're going to come back into Victoria, and you're going to go to your pain point field. Okay. That second field that we updated here. And you're going to make sure that you are researching your companies for that issue. Okay. So again, in my example, we are going to look for specific issues that this company has in building a client acquisition funnel. You might be doing content, so you might want to look for specific issues that this company has in generating blog posts or content. All right. And so I want you to, once you define the problem you're solving, get that integrated here into your personalization field. All right, perfect. All right, next, I want you to frame your solution. So given the problem that you're trying to solve at those companies, I want you to basically tell me, or tell this homework lesson, what offer or what your company does to solve that issue for people. Okay, so some examples. We build AI systems that automatically find, contact, and qualify leads, or we help teams publish consistent SEO-ready content. Keep it simple. Don't be too flowery. And really just let the words speak for themselves. You're framing your solution against their personal problem, so it's going to speak complementary any way you do this. But you want to make sure that you clearly state exactly what it is you're solving and what you can provide. Okay. So I want you to write one short sentence explaining your solution in plain language. All right. And then lastly, I want you to craft your offer. Now, this is probably the most important part. All right. How can you best provide free value to people up front that doesn't take you a ton of time or that you can automate? All right. So again, I've given you a bunch of examples. We have a bunch of examples back in our free offer example template that we just went through. But I want you to pick like a couple of those that maybe you could do, and then pick one. And then that will be your CTA/offer at the end of your message. All right. All right. So then we're going to put it all together. All right. So I want you to take, your problem. I want you to take your icebreaker with your problem against your solution, and then your CTA at the end. Okay. So I want you to get to this point here where you have, a good first opening message that people are going to respond to. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually go load all of this in to Victoria. Okay. And so once we get through this, we're almost ready to launch our outbound system. Okay. So this is, we're a good way into this course. Once we get this messaging into Victoria, we're in really, really good shape to almost be ready to launch. Okay. So let's hop into Victoria and get our messaging sequences actually updated. All right. So we're going to come to the sequence tab here. All right. And we're going to start by sending a LinkedIn connection request. And we're going to wait 3 days to make sure somebody has time to accept that or not. Okay. We can add a LinkedIn connection note here if we wanted. For now, I'm going to leave this blank. Okay. I found it's sometimes better to not even say anything in the LinkedIn connection and just let people respond before we send our first message. All right. Now remember, Victoria is a automated LinkedIn and email outreach system that can basically handle personal outreach on LinkedIn and email. And so what we're going to do is we're going to essentially add 2 different flows here. Okay. The first flow down this column is going to be if somebody accepts our LinkedIn connection request. So if they accept our LinkedIn connection request, we're going to send them a LinkedIn message. All right. And if they don't respond to that LinkedIn message after a day, then we're going to send them an email. All right. And if they don't respond to that email after a day, then we're going to send them one more LinkedIn message. Okay. And we can go on and on and on. All right. Now, if we send somebody a LinkedIn connection request and after 3 days they haven't accepted it, well, then we're just going to email them. Okay. We can't really send them a LinkedIn message. So we're going to send them 3 emails. Okay. All right. And so now what we need to do is, now that we've finished our homework back here and we have our messaging sequences kind of ready to rock, we can just drop those in to our sequence, UI over here. And very importantly, of note is that we can pull in our variables dynamically into these messages. So we can pull in our first name, our last name, our company name, our title, as well as our personalization fields, which we set up already into these messages dynamically. So we will just start dropping in messages here like this. Okay. So my first message is going to be, hi, first name, icebreaker. Notice company might be pain point. We built an AI SDR that runs LinkedIn and email. Can I show you a quick demo? Okay. Now, importantly, you can see I'm pulling in my icebreaker field here, as well as my pain point field. Right. And so all of those fields will dynamically generate and then fill in here for every single lead. So every lead is going to get a custom message. Okay. And we will preview that here in just a second. All right. Then I'm going to come down. If they don't respond after a day to my LinkedIn message, then we're going to send them an email. And it's going to say, here's my subject, free lead gen. And then I'm going to drop in my actual email body here. Okay. And it's very similar. It's just going to say, hey, first name, I just sent you a note on LinkedIn. So again, we're playing those channels off of each other. But I figured I'd follow up here too. Looks like your company might be pain point. Hey, we make that easy. Can I send you a free demo link? Okay. Perfect. And then we can wrap up with one last LinkedIn message. Hey, first name, thought I'd check in one last time. Can I send you a free demo to help your lead gen? Okay. And again, we can make this as long as we want, but we can keep adding steps forever, but for this demo, we'll just do 3. All right, and we're gonna do the same thing for the email side. So if somebody doesn't accept our LinkedIn connection after 3 days, well, then we are going to send them 3 emails, okay? And I'll just drop those emails in now. Okay, so those are all dropped in. They're very standard, same formula though. So we have icebreaker, problem, solution, and offer. Okay, so that is all set up just like that. I'm gonna hit save. And now we're actually ready to almost turn our campaign on. Okay, so if you've been following along the homework assignments, the last couple lessons, we're almost ready to crank this bad boy on and start running. The last thing I want to do is, before we move on to the next lesson, is I just want to preview these messages and make sure that our AI research fields are pulling in correctly and it sounds good. So I'm going to hit this little preview button, and we can see we can kind of filter through our different leads here and see how our messages look for every lead. I'm going to hit generate AI field and let this start to generate some custom messages, populate those fields, and just make sure our messaging looks good. So we'll let this generate here for a couple seconds and make sure everything sounds good. Okay, so that has populated now. And so let's just make sure this sounds good. So hi, Andrew, huge fan of what you're doing at JBH, especially building out the new SEO department. Sweet. Okay, so that sounds really good. Notice JBH might be struggling to scale outbound, so the new SEO department gets a steady stream of qualified retainer clients. Happens a lot when agencies are trying to grow. Interesting. Okay, so that sounds good. Hey, we built an AI SDR. Can I show you a quick demo? Okay, so that's a very personal message based off stuff we found on his LinkedIn profile and his website that hopefully he will respond to. All right, so that is looking really good, guys. Okay, so again, just make sure that this is saved, and then we are ready to move on to the next lesson. So high level, lesson number 4, how do you craft your messaging? You want to start with an icebreaker, then you want to research a problem, you want to frame your solution against that problem, and then offer a low friction offer that can boost reply rates, okay? So that is lesson 4. We're moving along now. We're getting very close to launching. We got to do a couple last things before we can actually launch this system and start sending messages via email and LinkedIn, which is what we're going to talk about in lesson 5. I'll see you there. All right, everybody, welcome to lesson 5 of AI Outbound 101. In this lesson, we're going to talk about a few administrative things we need to do to our email accounts and our LinkedIn profiles before we start sending messages from both as part of our AI Outbound campaign. All right, so let's hop in. All right, so it's very important before we launch our AI Outbound system on LinkedIn and email that we get our email accounts and LinkedIn accounts set up, warmed up, and looking as professional as possible so that when people receive stuff, when they receive emails, they don't bounce and they don't come in as spam. And when they receive LinkedIn messages, our profiles look professional and worthy of response. All right. So again, we're going to basically improve the deliverability of our emails, get less bounces. We're going to make sure we set up our email addresses in a way that avoids email bot detectors and protects our business domain. We are going to basically improve the rate limits, the amount of messages we can send on LinkedIn every day. And then we're going to, boost our reply rates and our LinkedIn connection rates. Okay. So here's a pre-launch checklist of everything I need you to do before we launch our cold outbound campaign. Now, this again doesn't have to just be with Victoria. If you're using Instantly for cold email, you're going to want to still do this. If you're using some other LinkedIn automation, you're still going to want to do this. But specific for Victoria, you're absolutely going to want to do this to start getting results. Okay. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about is email. Okay, so email, when it comes to outbound, is very important. All right. Now, there's a couple things to note when it comes to outbound email, cold email systems, cold email outreach. One is you want to protect your main company's domain. All right. And so what's going to happen here is when we start sending these emails at scale, Google and Outlook, they've gotten really good at detecting cold outreach, and they want to protect all their email users from just getting hit with, thousands of spam messages a day. So we need to do a couple things in order to basically avoid those bot detectors. And we need to also protect ourselves in case those bots pick us up. We don't basically hurt the deliverability of our actual email domain that we use to run our business. So for example, we want to set up a new domain that we can attach an email address to before we connect to Victoria or before we run an cold email campaign. And so I've got this step-by-step guide that is going to kind of walk us through exactly what we need to do here. All right, we're not going to go through this in detail because it gets pretty technical. But I would like you guys to go through this and actually set up a new email domain and attach a new email address to that domain. Okay, the rule of thumb is for every email domain or every fake domain that you have, you can attach up to 3 new email addresses with that domain. Okay, so what am I talking about here? All right, so let's say that my business domain is shrimp.com. All right. What am I talking about setting up a new domain? Why can't I just send emails from alex@shrimp.com? Well, the issue is because Google has gotten so good at detecting cold outreach, we want to make sure that if they catch us sending cold emails, we don't hurt our domain reputation with our actual business domain, shrimp.com. We want to set up some like fake domains here. So like getshrimp.com, tryshrimp.com, tastyshrimpapp.com. All right, stuff that's close enough that we can use to make new email addresses. So for example, alex@getshrimp.com, alex@tryshrimp.com, alex@tastyshrimpapp.com. And so if we get caught, doing cold email on any of these, we're not going to hurt our actual, business domain. Okay. And so this guide is going to walk you through exactly how to do it. And so for us at version 7, we have a fake email domain called @version7.co. Okay, that's not our actual business domain. We are at version7.ai, but we've set up this fake domain here, just so in case we get caught, it doesn't hurt our actual business domain. All right, so you're going to want to set up a fake domain like that. You can do that in Google Workspace. And you can attach those new email addresses to that domain in Google Workspace as well. Okay, so we've got a guide here that kind of shows you how to do that. So please follow that and get that set up. And then we have some steps on ways you can authenticate your domains. Okay, so you're going to set up SPF records, DKIM records, and DMARC. We have basically guides here on all of this. I don't want this to turn into an email course, but this is all here for you to set up your new email address. Now, maybe you have an email address already set up that's not your business domain. Perfect. You can just use that. But if you need a brand new email, you're going to want to set up a new domain and attach a new email address to that domain. Okay, so please follow these instructions here. Okay. So once you have your new email address set up, maybe you've had to set up a new domain, maybe you haven't. We're going to move on to the next step of our warm-up checklist, which is we want to warm up these emails. Okay, now what does this mean? Well, essentially, once we have new email addresses, they're going to be brand new. Google is going to know that we might be using these for cold outreach. Okay, they're brand new. Why are we making new email addresses? And they're going to basically throttle the deliverability of our email addresses until we have like a reputation score built up with that new email address. And so what that means is we need to warm up our email accounts for like 2 weeks, about 14 days. And we need to send, 5 to 10 emails a day at least, actual emails from our new email address to other email accounts so that Google thinks that these are actual emails that we're not using for cold outreach. Okay. So once you have your new email address or addresses set up at your new domain, you can warm up your new emails in a couple different ways. You can do this automatically using a tool called Woodpecker. And this is free or very cheap to do. This is essentially going to send those warm-up emails for you on your behalf for 2 or 3 weeks. Right? So it's going to warm up your email addresses and give you like a health score. You can also do this manually. So, if you attach your email to Gmail or Outlook or whatever, if you log in every day to your new email and you send 5 to 10 emails a day for 2 to 3 weeks, you'll be in good shape. Obviously, that's manual and you'll have to make sure to do that, but you can do it that way as well. Okay, so again, with our email accounts, it's very important to buy a new email address not associated with your actual business domain, and then to warm those emails up. Okay, so that we can avoid bot detectors. Okay. Now on the LinkedIn side, this is a little easier to do. So assuming you have a LinkedIn account already, if you don't, you want to go sign up and create a LinkedIn account, because that's where we're going to be sending our LinkedIn messages from. But assuming you have a LinkedIn account already, most people do, in order to boost response rates, connection rates, we need to make our profile look as professional as possible. Okay, so you want to make sure you have a professional profile photo, nothing grainy, nothing blurry, something professional, something where you're wearing a suit and you look good, you look fly, you look like somebody trustworthy. You want to have a professional title and bio, okay, which we'll talk about here in a second, how you can do that. And you want to have a rich work experience. So you want to, when somebody comes to your profile, you look legit. If you're offering AI lead gen and you have like McDonald's listed, nobody's going to trust you, nobody's going to reply to you. So you want to make sure that you have a rich experience on your LinkedIn profile and you look credible. Okay, so make sure you optimize your LinkedIn profile for that. And then similar to email, you want to warm up your LinkedIn profile. So if you have a new LinkedIn profile or you don't really use it that much, LinkedIn is going to throttle how many outbound messages we can send per day, right? Until our profile looks actually real and it's actually warm. And so, if you have a brand new LinkedIn profile, you might only be able to send 5 LinkedIn messages a day. Whereas if you have a fully active, warm LinkedIn profile, you can send up to 40 or so. All right. And so you want to make sure that you have a warm LinkedIn profile. What does that mean? What does that involve? Well, that involves posting 3 times a week for 2 weeks at least. Okay. So you're going to want to actually come up with some posts that you can post on LinkedIn. And I have some dummy ones that you can use down below. Okay. But you're going to want to actually create posts on your LinkedIn profile for at least 2 weeks. You're going to want to go like at least 3 posts a day for 2 weeks. So just go into the feed and like some posts that, you think are interesting. You're going to want to send 5 to 10 connection requests a day for about 2 weeks. And then lastly, you're going to want to send 2 to 3 messages per week to your connections for 2 weeks. Okay. Again, this is all just helping us prove to LinkedIn that we're not a bot profile and that we're legit. Okay. This is going to warm your LinkedIn account up and then increase the amount of messages and LinkedIn connections you can send every single day. Okay. So very important. All right. Now, very importantly, I just want to call this out. We never want to send more than about 30. You can go up to maybe 40 if you have a really robust profile, but we never want to send more than like 30 emails and 30 LinkedIn messages per day from each email or LinkedIn account. Okay. This will help us avoid bot detection. This will make sure that we don't get banned from LinkedIn. This will make sure we don't bounce from emails. We want basically this outreach to look as human as possible. And so if we're sending 1,000 LinkedIn messages a day, LinkedIn's going to say, oh, that's a bot. We don't want them messaging all of our users. Same thing with email. So we want this to look as human as possible. So you want to aim for 30, maybe 40 emails and LinkedIn messages a day. All right. Okay, so let's go through the homework now. All right, so first thing I want you to do is I want you to set up your new email address. If you need to set up a new email domain, please do. And then get those emails warmed up. Okay, this again is going to take you at least 2 weeks to do. Maybe you already have an email address sitting around that you can use. That's amazing. But most people don't. Most people need to go purchase a new email address and a new domain. It costs, I think it's like $2 or $3 a month. But you are going to have to buy a domain. So just buy a cheap domain and get those warmed up. All right. Once you're done with that, I want you to go and review and update your LinkedIn profile using this checklist. All right. And this is very basic. It's kind of what we just talked about. But I want you to go look at your profile picture. Make sure it looks legit. It's a headshot. It's a well-lit background. You should be smiling or appear approachable. Go add a banner image. All right. LinkedIn has a bunch of stock ones you can use if you want. But yeah, go add a banner image. That does help. I want you to write a headline for your profile. Okay. And I want you to communicate value in your headline, not just your title. All right. So for me, I would say something like helping agencies automate outbound and scale client acquisition. All right. Immediately when somebody gets a message from me, they can see my name and my title and they know, okay, this guy, he's going to help me with lead gen. If you're doing something else, if you're doing content, you want to tweak this for what your offer is. I want you to go add 2 or 3 short paragraphs into your about section, basically highlighting your work experience, talking about what you're working on now and the value you provide to people. Okay, that just helps round out your profile. Experience we talked about. I want you to really beef up your experience. I found this is very important when somebody comes to your profile and you don't have any experience talking or working on the stuff that you're selling, you're not going to have any credibility at all. Okay, so make sure you have at least 3 or 4 work experiences that you can put into your profile. Make a couple posts here in your featured section, and then like I said, go and like and comment on a few posts. Okay, so go do that for me. All right, and that might take you a little bit of time, but all the time you put in up front, this is going to all pay off in the back end when you start booking meetings and people start replying to you on LinkedIn. All right, I want you to post at least 3 of the following 6 dummy posts onto your LinkedIn profile over the next week. Okay, so I have some stock posts here that you can paste right into LinkedIn. So hop in here, literally paste them into your account and post. Okay, so you don't even have to think if you don't want to. You can just use those right there. I want you to go like or comment on 5 to 10 posts from people in your niche every single day for the next 2 weeks. That'd be awesome. That'll just warm up your LinkedIn profile. And then once all that is done, once we've got our email addresses set up, once we have our LinkedIn profiles looking professional and active and warmed up, we're going to move on to lesson 6, where we basically put this all together, get into Victoria and set up our final settings for our outbound campaign and actually get this outbound system running. Hey everybody, welcome to lesson 6 in AI Outbound 101. In this lesson, we're going to put it all together. So we've done all the work we need to do now. Now all we have to do is hop into Victoria and turn our AI Outbound system on. All right, so remember, in lesson 2, we defined our ICP and pulled our lead list. We have personalized with custom research in lesson 3. We have written our messaging in lesson 4. And now we've gotten our email and our LinkedIn accounts all ready to go in lesson 5. Okay, so all the hard work is done. We're coming down now to the, the crux of AI Outbound 101. All right, so technically we can run AI Outbound in make.com or N8N building templates. Okay, so we could build a cold email system that links to instantly in Make. We could find some sort of niche LinkedIn automation system that we could kind of load lead lists into. You don't have to use Victoria is the point. I don't want to be so like Victoria centric that I lose all credibility. You can build an outreach sequence in make.com or N8N. It's just incredibly difficult to do. It's incredibly difficult to manage and maintain and run. And I'd rather you guys just use Victoria because, this is all built for you. You don't have to build a template. You can just go sign up and it's super easy. So anyways, I just want to highlight that. But what we're going to do now is we're going to basically go and set up the last couple features in Victoria. All right. I want to call out that I have a full video here of start to finish setting up Victoria. Now, if you've done this course, if you've done all the homework, you'll have already known how to do this and we'll already be ready to rock. But if you want to watch this video, this shows you from start to finish how to get set up in Victoria, how to launch an email and a LinkedIn campaign, and how to even tie voice agents into that multi-channel outreach system. So I'll have this linked also in the course. I also have step-by-step tutorials on how to create campaigns, how to upload your leads, create personalization fields, generate messaging, turn on the autoresponder, and then track your analytics. So, if you want to jump to those, you can. We've kind of already gone over all of that here so far in AI Outbound 101. Okay, so we're going to hop into Victoria here, and we're going to set up the last few things we need to do specifically around our AI autoresponder. So remember, we've already uploaded our lead list, personalized our lead list, created our messaging sequence. The last thing we need to do is just, put the little bells and whistles on to get this thing running completely automatically. All right. So we have a cool feature here called the AI autoresponder. And this is what's really, really hard to build into like Make or N8N. This is why I'd rather just you guys hop on Victoria. Because what we wanted when we sat down and tried to build this app was we didn't want to do anything. We didn't want to just generate responses and then have to hop in manually to LinkedIn or email and try and get people on a meeting. We wanted AI to respond to these people for us and book meetings for us. And so what we came up with was the AI autoresponder. And so how this works is essentially every single person that responds to our LinkedIn messages or our email messages, we can have AI respond to on our behalf. Okay, so it's gonna handle objections, it's gonna handle positive responses, negative responses, etc. and it's going to optimize for any goal we choose. And so most people are going to want to book a meeting, all right? And so what that means is when our AI autoresponder is talking to people and responding to them, it's going to actually optimize to book a meeting to our Calendly link, which is really, really cool. Now, you don't have to book a meeting. You can send people to a URL on your website to fill out a form. Or if you'd prefer not to have the AI autoresponder respond for you, you can just have the AI send you a brief and give you suggestions on what you should say back to each lead, and then you can go do it manually if you wanted. For now, we're going to try and book meetings with these people. We're just going to give the AI autoresponder the name of our company. We're going to give it like a summary of the campaign that we're running. So, we're helping people generate leads by selling our AI SDR, okay? We can actually upload like knowledge-based documents here, which I should have a dummy one here for us. And that is actually going to teach the AI autoresponder what to say. So it can pull from information about your company. It can pull information about your products. It can pull pricing, as long as you upload it here, and it can actually convey that in the conversations it's having with your leads. We can tell it how to behave, so be friendly, and we can tell it how many times it should reply maximum. So I normally do 3. So if anything more than 3, stop responding. We can then notify ourselves every single time we get a response on LinkedIn or email. Okay, so we can monitor this on ourselves and make sure AI autoresponder is behaving basically. And we'll save this down. And at this point, guys, we are basically ready to activate our campaigns. Like I said, there's a lot of really cool things we can do here with webhooks that I'm not going to talk about in this video because I talked about it here in this video. So if you ever want to connect the responses you're getting in Victoria out to make.com or your CRM or VAPI voice agent flows or anything like that, you can easily send the webhooks out based off responses to whatever system you are using. All right. And so once this is done saving, which it is now, we are ready to actually launch our campaign. And so all we're going to do is we're going to come back to our dashboard here and we're going to activate this campaign. And at that point, your AI Outbound SDR is going to run on autopilot, personalize leads for you, send LinkedIn and email messages on your behalf, and then book meetings for you completely automatically. You can just sit back, kick your feet up, and watch the meetings come in. All right, so that is lesson 6, guys. Let's do a little homework here, and then we'll be ready to move on to our last lesson, okay? So what I want you to do is, if you haven't yet, I want you to go into Victoria and connect your LinkedIn and your email accounts to your campaign. So you're going to come here to connected accounts inside your campaign, and you're literally just going to go enable your email and your LinkedIn profile, okay? And at that point, you can then activate your campaign right here, okay? That's the last step. I want you to turn on your AI autoresponder. We hadn't done that until now. So if you haven't set that up, go turn that on and then activate your campaign, all right? And that's it, guys. Now you're running. Optionally, if you are making a more advanced AI outbound system with voice agent, I want you to go watch this video right here, which will show you how to connect your voice agent to Victoria so that you can do cold outreach campaigns across email, LinkedIn, and voice, okay? Completely optional. You don't need to. It's more advanced. Anyways, guys, we're almost done now. Let's head to lesson 7, where we're going to talk about how we can read our analytics and improve our campaigns. Hey everybody, welcome to lesson 7 of AI Outbound 101. In this lesson, we're going to talk about how we can track our analytics and improve our campaigns over time. All right, so what we're going to talk about here is how we can monitor our performance, interpret results, and continuously improve our outbound system. All right, and so if I come into Victoria and I go to another campaign that I've been running for a while, you can see I get this really cool analytics dashboard here, which shows me a lot of really cool information. Okay, so I get the amount of leads that I have uploaded. I get my LinkedIn connection percentage rate. I get my email open rate. I see how many connections I've sent, how many have been accepted, how many messages I've sent, and then how many positive and negative responses I've gotten. So I ran this campaign for about 8 days, and I got 6 positive responses. I think 4 of those people actually booked to a meeting, and I did absolutely nothing. I did absolutely nothing. I sat there and I had 4 meetings booked to my calendar completely automatically. All right. So this is the analytics dashboard inside of Victoria. What is important in all of this? Okay. So very importantly, we'll start with email metrics. Okay. How do we read email metrics? What are we tracking towards? What is a good, what is a good KPI that we want to track to? So for email, you want to have an open rate of about 50%. Okay. And you can see here for this campaign, I hit that, but just barely. All right. And so 50% is a good, goal to have. If this drops below 40, you might want to warm up your email a little more or tinker with your subject line a little more to entice people to open that email. But if this is, drastically less than 50, you're having deliverability issues. And you need to either warm up your account or go set up a new email address at a new domain because maybe your domain is fried. Okay. Reply rate needs to be about 1 to 2%. If it's lower than this drastically, you really want to look into your personalization. Your icebreaker might not be hooking the lead well enough, or maybe your offer isn't strong enough as well. And so if you're not getting a good reply rate, you want to make sure that icebreaker and that personalization is really hitting, because it probably isn't if it's less than this. All right. If normal traditional outbound, if you're just doing like stock templates with no personalization, you're going to hit about a 0.3 to a 0.5% reply rate. So anything around there, you really need to work on your personalization. Your positive replies should be about 1%. Okay. So assuming you can get, 2% replies, half of those should be positive. If they're not, you really want to work on your offer. You want to, make it less friction and more value forward. So maybe you talk about or think about, another thing that you can provide for free up front that these people will respond to better. Okay. So again, open rate of 50%, reply rate of 2%, and then positive reply rate about half of that at 1%. That's kind of what you're looking for email. Now, when it comes to LinkedIn, your connection acceptance rate should be somewhere between 30 and 50. So you can see mine here is much lower than that. All right. And so, when that happens, you want to talk about boosting your LinkedIn profile, making it look more professional. And then B, maybe adding a LinkedIn connection note to your LinkedIn connection request. Okay. So you would want to, look and maybe tweak that. You want to be about 30 to 50%. Now, there's a lot of clients we work with that hit 50%. And their LinkedIns look really, really good. They look approachable. They look professional. And it's when we see low LinkedIn connection rates, you can almost tell instantly by looking at a LinkedIn profile why that would be. Okay. And then lastly, your response rate on LinkedIn should be much higher than it is on email because it's so much more niche. It's more business oriented, and people on there are looking to network. Okay. So you should be hitting about 15 to 25% response rate. Which is what we are getting here in this campaign. So 6 positive responses out of 33 messages sent. So that's really good. If it's lower than that, again, you want to talk about what your offer is, and maybe you're just not, maybe your lead list isn't actually targeted correctly. Maybe what you're offering to the lead list you pulled isn't aligning. And so you're running into issues there. So something to look at. And so homework for lesson number 7 is I want you to launch your first Victoria campaign, and I want you to let it run for like a week. All right, let it run. Get some data pulling in. See if you're getting responses or not. I want you to make note of your open reply and positive response rates. I want you to make note of your LinkedIn connection rates. And then I want you to pick one of those and try to improve it. So if your LinkedIn connection rate is less than 30%, I want you to go to your LinkedIn profile and make it better. Change your tagline, change your bio, change your about section, change your profile picture, and see if you can make it better. I want you to then run that for another week and see if you see improvement. All right. And I want you to do this repeatedly over the first month of your campaign until 4 or 5 weeks from now, you have addressed a lot of these fall off points and your campaign is humming. Okay. So that is lesson 7, guys. That is how we can always track and improve. In traditional outbound methods, you never had like a one-stop shop or a one source of truth to see how your campaigns are doing. It was very fragmented and one-off. Now with Victoria, you have all this right here at your fingertips, and you can tweak and edit your messages super easily. You can tweak and edit your LinkedIn profiles and all your outreach sequences to boost your KPIs literally live, like whenever you want. So please take advantage of that. Anyways, guys, that is the end of AI Outbound 101. Congratulations. You just finished the most comprehensive course anywhere on the internet, teaching you how to run automated outbound lead gen campaigns using AI. We really went through the ringer here talking about so much. Remember in lesson 2, we talked about defining our ICP and pulling those verified lead lists out of Apollo or LinkedIn Sales Nav or Appify. We then talked about how we personalize those lead lists using Perplexity or using Victoria so that we could build custom research profiles for every single lead. This is one of the most important steps in the entire process. We then learned how to write clear value-first messages that are going to get replies. We talked about how we structure those messages with a personalized icebreaker, with framing their lead's problem, by offering our solution against that problem, and then by offering a low-friction, value-forward free offer that can get people to actually reply and build trust with. Next, we talked about how we can set up professional emails and how we can improve our LinkedIn profiles to boost our reply rates and help deliver these messages at a high clip. And then lastly, we talked about how to use Victoria to essentially run automatically these multi-outreach campaigns across LinkedIn and email. We talked about how you can fire webhooks out to Vappy and connect voice agent calls to these outbound flows. We talked about how Victoria is probably the easiest way on the market to run these very coordinated, very complex outreach campaigns, as opposed to building something in Make or N8N, which is very fragmented, hard to manage, and breaks very easily. And lastly, we talked about how we can track results inside of Victoria and KPIs and goals that we want to hit when it comes to email open rate percentages and LinkedIn response rate percentages, and ways we can tackle and improve those rates if we're not hitting those thresholds. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for completing AI Outbound 101. I had a pleasure making this course for you and walking you through all this. I really believe that this course is going to give you everything you need to start scaling your companies and automating your lead gen with AI. That way you can spend more time with your family or on things that you really enjoy doing, as opposed to manual client acquisition, which just takes so much time and costs so much money. So if you guys have any questions for me, any concerns, if you want an inside look at Victoria, if you want a free demo, let me know. And we can book a call together, or you can just shoot me an email at alex@version7.ai, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you guys so much for completing AI Outbound 101. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you all in the next course. Peace.